Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Sosbans and Sidesteps podcast. Joining me, Big M, as always, Mr. Huw Griffin. Good evening. How are we?
I'm okay, Mark. I'm okay. I've just been browsing the comments on a couple of the things that I've uploaded. Uh, I've been browsing TikTok comments.
Oh,
So
TikTok. Ooh.
yeah, so all right. Do you need to do that while we're recording? For audio listeners, he's just stuck some
It's
of the
the nasal
soil stuff
inhaler.
up his nose. Yeah,
Not all soil. It's not. It didn't stick it up. Just a sniff.
we're a
What's wrong with it?
visual format now, Mark. You can't just be doing things like that. Um,
Fine.
but yeah, I was just having a browse of the TikTok comments. And look, for all the people talk about Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, TikTok is the weirdest comments. TikTok is by far the most aggressive comments, which is hilarious because after they finish watching your video, they're going to watch a teenager do a dance, and then they're going to watch God knows what else on TikTok, like some kind of trend or whatever. And then they just like pause in that to be like really aggressive to you and then leave it. It's weird. It's weird, like 40-year-old bald gammon men being on TikTok and having a go at you on TikTok.
Okay, I'm sure you're coming to a point by you. So what some of the comments that you are personally getting? And come on, you got to give us something.
So on my one that I've just done for my reaction to the Wales squad, which we're going to talk about.
Ooh, ooh.
Um, I got one guy saying, "So how come you're not a part of pro rugby then? Or how come you don't work in professional rugby then?" And I'm like,
You do?
I make money talking about rugby. Does that count? Um,
Yeah.
and what another guy said to me. Oh, another guy said to me, I need to have faith. We've lost. We haven't won a game since October 2023, but apparently I need to have faith. Um, and there's another one I can't remember. Oh, yeah, said I
Yeah.
wasn't being consistent. Oh, and another guy asked me, because I was wearing this Scarlets jersey, a guy asked me, um, oh, how are the Scarlets getting on? Why don't you talk about the Scarlets? And I'm like, I've got a Scarlets podcast. It's called Sosbans and the Sidesteps, and you're listening to it right now. So I'm delighted.
Oh, for audio listeners, Hugh has got the biggest grin I think I've ever seen on his face while he's drinking his council pop out of a grey bottle, I believe. Or is it a different colour on screen?
No, it's mostly clear, but with grey details.
Ooh. Okay, so let's get down to the nitty gritty. You just mentioned it, but a certain national squad announcement was made earlier today, which today being the 13th of January 2025. And we got 7 buys in. So, you know,
Shall I put the team on the screen?
wow. Just
It's a
wow. I
bit.
like
We
it.
said that we'd start this as a bit.
No, no, we did. You might have said it to yourself. You didn't say it to me. Go on then, chuck it up.
Right, hang on.
Oh, before
Right.
we go into it, is this you a team or is this just one of the?
No, this is the squad. But to put the squad on the screen doesn't sound as good.
Yeah.
Um,
Can I just air a quick grievance with naming national squads? I
what's
hate
that?
it being done alphabetically. It drives me absolutely nuts. Do it by position. It makes it so much easier for everybody to see what's going on. I honest to God.
But that gives the game away then, doesn't it? For the coaches, if he's planning on playing someone in a stupid position, then that completely gives the game away. Okay, first I just need to acknowledge, last week I said on the podcast I would be shocked if Sam Parry gets picked because I didn't think that Gatland would forgive him. Well, Gatland forgave him, so I'm sorry.
Is is it Gatland forgiving Parry or is it Parry forgiving Gatland? Because you don't know what way round it really was. Yeah. I will mention this because off air, probably about a week or so ago, we were having a little conversation about, Wales squad, who's going to be the tight heads. And obviously Henry Thomas, Kieran Arzati, they were always going to be in there. We knew that for a fact. But like I was banging my head. I couldn't find a third. I don't know, maybe Tom Botha, blah blah blah. And then he went, oh, Will Griff John with a big laugh, all these different stupid emojis. And lo and behold, he's actually in the bloody squad. A man that 2 years ago was released for not being good enough for a region is somehow now in the national setup. Just wow.
It's. I think we all need to start writing apology letters to Wayne Pivac. He was a visionary.
It really was compared to this. I mean, I've got no problem like okay, I'm gonna say every 4 years, having a completely random squad, but you stick with it. This is now like the third random squad in 4 camps. I really, I really don't get it.
Yeah. So before we kind of go into just the Scarlets stuff, now when we focus on players, we're going to focus on Scarlets players because we're a Scarlets podcast, and I don't really like talking about other regions' players, especially if we criticize them because it just causes arguments. So I'm not going to do that. But I don't. I've got no idea what Gatland's trying to do these days. I've got absolutely not a Scooby Doo. What he's trying to do, what he's going for. Um, the whole thing about you've made this point loads of times, Mark. It's all very well building depth, but if you give them 20 minutes and then drop them, you haven't built depth, have you? Um, and things like uh, Max Llewellyn being dropped and Gareth Anscombe being dropped when they were like this, he clearly like bet the house on them in the autumn. But then you could go back to the summer where he'd clearly decided, no, it's Ben Thomas, Mason Grady, and Owen Watkin. And then he abandoned that. And now he's abandoned something else. And that's just the story of Gatland 2.0 is just experimenting with something and then completely abandoning it. And like the whole Anscombe thing where he's like, oh, he's not going to be around in the next World Cup. But there's like, I think someone put like 4 players older than Anscombe in the squad.
Yeah, it is embarrassing, and anyone who's listened to any of these podcasts, especially when I've been on the rap pod as well, I've never been a fan of Gatland. He's a brilliant man manager, but he's not a coach. And quite frankly, I think he's lived off his assistants for well enough majority of his career. So he's now in a position where he can't do that. And I think we're kind of seeing what Warren Gatland mind can actually do, which quite frankly is scary. But yeah, so if we touch on our boys, okay, no, if we start with our boys, let's rephrase that because that was wrong.
Mart, there's no other way of putting it. They've picked the entire Scarlets three-quarter line for Wales.
They've not only done that, they've looked at who's been in the Scarlets Academy in the last 10 years and gone, hang on, he's playing professional rugby. We'll pick him as well.
Yeah, but
Josh.
they haven't picked the guy who's probably been in the best form, which is Johnny Williams.
Yeah, it's a weird one. If he did stick with Max Llewellyn, no, even then, I still don't get it because I think there's 2 centers in there that I don't think quite are deserving given current form,
Well,
age,
the
players
thing
around them.
with I said I wasn't going to focus on Scarlets players. The thing about Nick Tompkins specifically, right? I'm not going to make any comment about my opinion on Nick Tompkins' qualities, his pros and his cons. There's no point in having him in the squad if you're not going to play him.
Exactly.
So why is he? So what is it then? So the thing that he has that the others don't have is experience. And in the autumn, he picked Nick Tompkins and didn't play him a single minute. If he's going to do that again in the Six Nations, I don't get it. I don't get what the point of that is.
I think it's the same in every single position as we go along. We've got more or less, and I think anyone you could probably pick your starting 15 out of this squad as such. But then you're looking at okay, who's the bench, who's the backups, and then you're looking at saying okay, you're developing depth. Okay, well, how are you doing that? Because if I can use Kemsley Matthias as a massive example here, now for me, the last Six Nations, he came in. It was his first time in proper camp after the World Cup warm up squad. That's always slightly different in my mind because it's such a large squad. So that was the first time he came in, and since then he hasn't had 7 caps, but he's been involved in 7 matchday squads, and he's got less than 100 minutes of game time. Now if you're bringing a player in, you've got to use them, and especially last year when they said, "Oh, it's all about development," until the autumn when he changed it randomly. If you're talking about development, then you put the player you want to see how they go, to see how they progress. Like even if it was last Six Nations, like okay, Domikowski, he had the World Cup. Okay, so let's progress with him by here. So Domikowski get as the starts, and then Gareth Thomas off the bench with maybe Kems having a run out in one of the games. But that didn't happen. And then you go to the summer, and the exact same thing, and then you go to the autumn, and it's the same thing again, and you come round and you've got
Yeah,
player, but yeah.
it begs the question, what if you don't rate him for whatever reason, why do you keep picking him?
Uh, for me, is if you're gonna have a squad like that, then why not just pick a squad of, I don't know, 27 players and then have 10 training camp players? Just make it abundant from the let go. You're not playing unless we have an injury, because it just doesn't make any sense to me. I get you pick your player in whatever position it is, and you see it through. That's why, like, I'm not a big fan of Azarati, but I've got no problem with him starting games just to make sure that he's had enough caps, enough minutes, more than anything, to really see how he steps up in this environment. And then once he's hit that thing, then you think, okay, we know where you are. You're probably not a starter. You're definitely top three, but we're gonna move on to someone else now, and then we'll call upon you when needed, which is generally how you build depth. You see someone through before you move on to someone else. But we're just not seeing anything of that nature. I mean, how many different center combinations have we had now since Gatland has, been back? It just seems absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And that's what I had a massive go at Wayne Pivac for the whole center situation. And Gatland has just absolutely doubled down on that. Not only different players, but completely different game plans. And I don't get it. So speaking about the Scarlets boys then, so if we focus on that back line, like I said, the entire Scarlets three quarter has been picked. Two centres and three players. Ellis Me, which I called on the podcast, got in. Blair Murray, who we expected to get in, got in. Tom Rogers, who we expected to get in, got in. And I don't think it's any surprise Eddie James and Joe Roberts getting in either. Um, so, Mart, the duality of Big M. You obviously gutted that any Scarlets players have been picked for Wales, but now that they're in there, I'm assuming you think that they should all be first choice.
Oh, one sec. I have done up a mock start in. I've done a mock start in 15 and a mock and no strongest 15 and a strongest
By
23.
which you mean you've done
I'm
a
not.
starting 15, and I shall now mock it.
No, I'm not going to say it out loud. I'm just going to tell you whether or not they're in my starting. Like, so
Drum
I'll
roll,
be
please.
honest. Back three, I think if he's going strongest 15, I think only Blair Murray gets in.
Really?
Starting. Yeah. If you're going for a 23,
Who have you got at fullback for Wales?
Sanjay.
Oh yeah, I forgot he was in. Yeah, fair.
Yeah. So if we go for the strongest 23, I I think Tom Rogers comes in as fullback, and Blair Murray and Ellis Me are both on the bench for impact, because Eddie James
What?
Eddie
Two
James
back three players on the bench.
we've got no we've got no real tens. Ben Thomas is going to be a 10, and Dan Edwards, you know, he's a brilliant prospect, but he's a prospect. I'm happy for him to be in and around the squad, but to be involved in the match day, I think is too soon. There's still a lot of progression to
Two
be
back
done.
three players on the bench.
Are you gonna put Tompkins or Watkin in there?
Well, you know I only believe in the 6-2, but
I
the
can't even get a 6-2 with this Welsh squad
it's
with
going to
the,
have to be Watkin on the bench because he can cover both centre positions.
yeah. Well,
No
I'll
one
be
else can
honest.
do that.
I'll be honest. I think Blair Murray is covering 10 to 15 apparently. With things certain people are saying on socials. But
I'd So what's your centre combination for Wales then? First choice centres.
Eddie and Joe, simple.
Yeah, okay. I agree, but
The little high pitched voice, and I love it.
do I agree? Well, here's the thing. You either goes There's three options. You either go
No,
Watkin and Joe, because that's what you did against France. in the last Six Nations, which feels like a million years ago at this moment. Um, and for God's sake, just not something brand new. Or he goes Watkin and Tompkins, because at least they've played together before, and that's the most experienced version that we've got. And for God's sake, we've got to win a game. Or he goes Eddie and Joe. Now, I haven't really helped there, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, like for me, I know we've just, we can speak about Max Llewellyn missing out, which is, still very weird. But Joe Roberts is your 13. He
But
is.
that was always the thing about the autumn that I always had the question in my mind is because in the autumn he went back to the Six Nations style centre partnership, except I don't know about that. He went because he had a passing 12 and a crash ball 13. Now, Ben Thomas is better at passing than Nick Tompkins is, better at playmaking. And crash ball, you can make people can make up their own minds about who they think in 2024 was better, George North or Max Llewellyn. But if Joe is the long-term solution at 13, then Max Llewellyn is nothing like that. And that game plan was never going to work with Joe. So what was
No.
all that about? That's my issue.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm looking at this even objectively, Joe is quite rusty. He's still only a few games back from injury, but you've got to start Joe. Looking at the centres that are available. It just purely has to be him, and we got to remember he's going to get at least another game, and then a couple of weeks training. I doubt we're going to see many of these boys for the Edinburgh match, but less said about that right now, the better. So he will be closer to proper match fitness and a little bit of form. And then it's a case of you want someone with size then. And, Tompkins, he's a little terrier. He's a nuisance, but he's not that. Watkin, he doesn't really give you that front foot ball. So it's got to be Eddie James. And they're a centre partnership that have played together multiple times. They know each other. It would work. And quite frankly, you could really, stick your arm up and go, we may as well have all outside backs of Scarlets.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what we were mulling over in the group chat. It was what does the Scarlets backline look like without any of these players?
Oh
And
no,
it is, trust me on this, dear listener, a little bit scary.
it's
Because
not.
I think we would if we don't get any of these players released back to us for the down weeks, we are going to have to play a 6-2 split because we won't have enough players unless Tommy Lewis comes back or Jack Davis gets more game time, which he might do because he was on the bench against Benetton.
Yeah,
So
and he did.
that's the options.
Jack Davis did come on fairly early in that game, showing that
Yeah.
he has a bit of trust in him. I mean, we're looking into our back line now, and I'm thinking, do
So
we?
I'll tell people who I picked. So scrum we haven't had scrum half picks, so that's fine. Obviously Sam's injured. We'll talk about that more in a minute. So you think, oh, Ioan Lloyd at 10. No, you ain't got any fullbacks. So Ioan Lloyd at fullback, Charlie Titcombe at 10, and then we
Charlie.
don't have any other 10s. That's all of them gone. And then obviously it's Johnny at 12, Max at 13, and then the wings are going to be Ioan Nicholas and Steph Evans.
And we just have to say Steph Evans isn't match fit yet. He may not even be match fit in time
He needs to go and
for
play for the
Edinburgh.
Drovers, doesn't he? Or Quins.
Well, if that's going to happen, well, it's only one game in the FRC this weekend, which is the Drovers. So this is the only weekend he's going to have opportunity to play, and I don't think he's match fit. And then if we come on to bringing Tommy Lewis back in, I don't think he's going to be ready for the first break week in the Six Nations. So we are really between a rock and a hard place. Like you said, we don't have any tens. Behind Charlie Titcombe, we're literally going into 18, 19-year-olds.
Carwyn Leggett Jones, come on down.
Is he 17? I mean, I wouldn't be against it, but he's got the under 18 championship. We'll get onto that a little bit later. But yeah, if we do look at the actual tens we do have in the system, we've got Steph Jack Jones, who's had a handful of games for Llandovery, majority off the bench. He must be playing for university because I haven't seen him in a while. We've got Ellis Price, younger brother of Jack Price, who is more of a 12 than a 10 anyway. And same again, he's only had a handful of minutes for Quins. And I mean, I think you could probably include Ellis Payne, but he's playing 15 for Newcastle Emlyn, so that would be an unbelievably huge step up. So
Yeah.
we really are, bare bones when it comes to the back line.
Gabe McDonald is another player who we've seen has been getting a lot of minutes in SRC, and Dwayne has name checked, so maybe we'll see him at some point. But
I'll get to talk about him in a little bit as well, due to one of the games that happened on this weekend.
yeah,
He's a Buryport boy. He's a solid talent. Seems to be being used at 12 and 13. So
yeah.
that's
But
that's
all
an
I'll say
interesting one.
is, Cowdor, you'd best be ready to play a few more full 80s, and maybe even on the wing for a bit.
Yeah, I was thinking can Archie play on the wing? He looks like a little nippy bugger.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll make it work.
we'll make it.
Right, so we move on. Shall we move on? Stop Wales chat
Okay,
and
should we just
talk about.
list it? Should we just list everyone first for anyone
Okay.
that doesn't actually know? So we
Oh,
got
we haven't talked about how Plumtree's not been picked.
no, we haven't. So if we just list our boys, we got Kemsley Matthias, which is our only forward, unbelievably.
No, Henry Thomas is in.
Oh yeah, Henry Thomas. I'm blind. I'm still thinking of him as a French guy. I can't believe that. Kemsley and Henry, the props. Obviously the props. It's got to be the props. Then we've got Eddie James, Joe Roberts, Blaine Murray, Ellis Mee, and Tom Rogers. And that brings us to a nice total of 7. So if they'd said 7 last week, I would have taken Ellis Mee out and put Tim
And how
Plumtree
many
in.
Scarlets Academy products beside that have we got in?
Oh, don't get me going through that. I mean, I don't have data going back long enough to tell you if Gareth Thomas is, but he is a Newcastle Emlyn boy. So I would assume. Then Jack Morgan, that's another 2. Rodri Williams, 3. Then we've
Oh yeah, I
got
forgot about him.
Josh. Then we got Josh Adams, Liam Williams, and Josh Hathaway. So another 6. So realistically, we've produced or currently got playing 13 of the squad. That's not bad.
Call it half. We've produced half of the Wales squad.
All
But
right.
someone who's not made it is Tane Plumtree. And this is a bizarre selection decision for me. Now, Gatland has said that Tane was unlucky because they went for 5 locks and 5 back rows, and he's not made the cut. And he then started doing some ramble about how they've picked a lot of English-based second rows, which means they'll have to bring in people to train in the second row, but that's not going to be Tane, is it? So I'm not sure how that was relevant to that question. But the point is this. Is Tane good enough to be selected Wales? Yes. And since he has arrived in Wales, he has been involved in every Wales squad when fit, and more importantly, pretty much every single matchday 23 when fit for Wales. So to suddenly just be gone makes no sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. And this whole, we picked 5 locks. You normally pick 5 locks. You normally pick 6 back rows. And, I'm assuming he's going to use Freddie Thomas or Christian's. I don't play rugby for my club very much at 6 because we've literally only got both of them. I'm gonna go out there and say it's probably going to be Wainwright playing 6 as we have Faletau in there, but we don't have a player in the mold of Plumtree. There really isn't another one quite
Yeah,
like him
I've
in the
just pulled up
country.
his stats against Gloucester, and he had of course he was playing at 6 with Fafita. Refer to
Does
old
work.
podcasts on our views on that, but he was good. His stats were pretty much the best player, and I don't understand this. Players are the just kept in, and then gone thing.
No, like I know people have been saying, "Oh, he's got discipline issues."
True.
He's hot headed. He does
He's young.
he does get in it some games. It's only the odd game you've seen. It's not Every single game he's going penalty machine. It's like the no, I'll talk about that later. But yeah, Plumtree is a mini Fafita, and I've got no problem saying that. And I do think that Plumtree is going to eclipse Fafita within the next 2 seasons, as in finish this season, so 2.5 years really. So that is going to be some standard of player, and he's already, quite frankly, I think the best natural six that there is in Wales. Jim Botham,
He just doesn't work in Gatland's system. Gatland picking Wainwright at 8 and Plumtree at 6 didn't make any sense. It should have been the other way around. For a Gatland system. So it's just a continuation of the trend.
yeah. Oh well, let's throw that in the bin for now. Then we'll come back to that in a couple of weeks when it's more relevant. So next thing we have to talk about, there was a man omitted from the squad, not because he wasn't good enough, not because he was dropped or not selected. It was because he was injured. Young Sammy Costelow, on his 24th birthday, breaks his collarbone. Now,
What a freak injury. You don't see many of them in rugby, do you?
no, and I've looked back at the tackle and I'm trying to see, because obviously it must have been the impact as he's gone down on the ground.
Yeah, so
Because,
I was
because
at the game and I saw him getting treatment and they were moving his arm down and he was like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And then they lifted his arm up and he literally jumped. He literally shot up in the air and cried out. So, um, yeah, so from that moment I was like, oh, that's bad. And I assumed it would be a dislocated shoulder, but a broken collarbone, gosh.
yeah, it is really ominous because my wife, my other half, she's broken her collarbone, and it was literally she fell and her arm was like locked out straight as she landed, and obviously a shockwave straight up through to her. That's what snapped it for her. And I'm just thinking the way he's landed, I'm not quite sure how he's quite done it. It must have been a
Blame the
hell of a lot
artificial
of force.
pitch, Mark.
It must have been a really, really heavy pitch. He must have landed so hard. So he's had scans. He needs an operation, which means it looks like he's going to be out
12
for
weeks.
12 long weeks, three
That's a
months.
massive blow to us.
It
Scarlets.
is.
Forget Wales for a moment. And he is still, by the way, Sam Costelow is the best fly half in Wales. But it's a massive impact to us. That's it, an absolute gut punch. There's not many players who losing them would harm us more.
No. I mean,
He's top
he's
top five at least most important players for the Scarlets.
if he is plain sailing 12 weeks and he's back, it will be for the round of 16 European knockouts. Whether or not we're involved in that is another question. But again, later on, don't you worry. But yeah, he's going to miss 6 games. He's going to miss obviously Van this week, Edinburgh, Ulster, Munster, Stormers, and Ospreys at home as a minimum. You know, looking at how we play, looking at the sister, and I hate being negative, that. But honestly, I think our top 8 chances have just taken one hell of a hit, and I mean a massive, massive shot. So yeah, I mean, shall we discuss on options now, or shall we
Well,
move on to the
I
next?
think
To the
I think
next.
if we as a kind of a bridge to the next bit, um, we're now in a situation where our number one fly half is gone. So we're now left with because it affects two positions, doesn't it? Because it affects scrum half as well. Um, because now and our senior fly half is gone, which means we're left with a guy who is still adapting to be a fly half and a senior academy guy who is we all think is going to be great. But now, this is it's on Dwayne, really. We're now in a situation where one of our fly halves has not had enough minutes and is going to be thrown in the deep end. And the scrum half who he's got the most relationship with, hashtag dream team, also doesn't have enough minutes. And the other fly half, as we shall now transition smoothly onto, is off at the end of the season.
Yeah, Ioan Lloyd. Ioan Lloyd. I don't have any nice words to say right now, and I'm going to try and limit it. So he came to us wanting to play 10. We gave him the ability to play 10. Last year, he had a clear run. A clear run. This year is the first time he's really had any competition for the 10 shirt, and I believe he started 5 games at 10, of 11 before. It's probably 12 now with Gloucester. So I believe the reasoning behind it is the fact that he wants to be Wales number one, number 10, but he doesn't want to stay here and fight for the shirt. He would rather leave and go somewhere where he's been promised something. Bugger the club that gave him the opportunity to play here, to play in this position. And, we backed him a lot when we probably shouldn't have. We know easily by this point last season that as a 10, he's just not up to it as it stands. Yes, he has improved in that time, but he's still making, the same simple mistakes. And I just there's no reward for our kindness. Then we literally we took on someone who wanted to play 10 when he's been playing 12, 15 wing. And we said, yeah, okay, we will give you that opportunity. And less than 18 months later, he's saying, oh, I don't want to stay and fight for the number one shirt here. I'm going to go somewhere and they're just going to give it to me, which I'm assuming is essentially the conversation they've had, because quite frankly, that's the only way I see him being a starting 10 at any
Well,
other
we'll
region, really.
I'll tune into the Cardiff Central podcast this week and listen to what those guys have had to say. Because I'll be very surprised if Cardiff have promised him the number 110 jersey, because they just promised that to Sheedy a year ago. So I don't know what's going on,
Yeah,
but I don't want to debate Cardiff fly halves. Look, Ioan Lloyd's been a project at fly half since he's come here. Has he had great games for the Scarlets? Yes, of course he has. Yes, absolutely, of course he has. And he got called up into the Wales squad last Six Nations and started against England, for goodness sake. Ironically, his best games have probably been against Cardiff. And does he have unbelievable natural talent as a rugby player? Yes. He is, but he's struggled to, on occasions, be that fly half that you need. So he's not the one to control territory. He's not the one to run the game. He's not the one to say, "Don't give me the ball. Forwards truck it up, or give it to this person." His first instinct is always to run, take contact, try and beat a player. And he's cut the. I think he's the current top point scorer in the URC. I rate his goal kicking. So, yeah, I think the thing that I'm nervous about now is kind of what you were leading to, is that because he's going to be filling in for Sam whilst he's injured, and the narrative is now going to change about him, and it's going to be less about Ioan seeing how he's progressing and more about people will focus on his mistakes more. So yeah, it's tough. And yeah, so it's let's be honest about it. The biggest reaction that me and you have seen on social media, despite what some other people might claim, the biggest reaction to it was, "Thank God it's not Sammy."
Yeah. And, there are a minority of supposed Scarlet fans who are like, oh, I wish we'd have kept Lloyd over, first, which, quite frankly, I don't understand how you can be a Scarlet fan, watch these games, and not know Sam is head and shoulders, above everyone. The only area of the game that Lloyd is better is probably spotting a gap from
Ball in
backfield.
hand and counter attacking.
I
He's
mean,
got better footwork than Sam.
counter attacking, yeah, because Sam's got an
Counter
eye for the
attacking, yeah.
gap. We go back to the the last time before this Friday that he was at the shed. He absolutely he's a one-man show as Wales under-20s demolished England under-20s, and like we said last week, we're seeing him become the running 10 again. Yes, he is a general, he's a game manager, he does do a good fair bit of kicking, but he also runs the game as well, which is what we all want to see being Scarlets. We want that bit of flair. Now, in terms of moving forward, I know we've got very, very limited options in our backline, especially over these coming months. But I Tit comes my starting 10. Like
Well, he's going to have to be because all the rest are picked for Wales.
well,
And
yeah,
they'll be broken.
Even if Jack Davis comes in at 15, Lloyd's on the bench for me. I don't want to put any more minutes more than I have to into a player that doesn't want to be here. And I think that's my final word on it.
If we look at what happened with Kieran Hardy last season, is he took his very comfy spot on the bench from the moment it was announced that he was leaving, didn't he? So, and again, this is what I'm saying, is that Dwayne's got to reflect on this and learn from this, because now he's faced with a situation where his best 10 is injured, his second best 10 is off, and his third best 10 hasn't got any minutes. So
yeah, and let's give that to an end so we can actually come on to where we can talk a bit about that. And so we travelled up to Gloucester Scarlets travelled up to Gloucester.
I travelled to Gloucester.
You travelled across. There's a difference.
No, it's down for me, actually.
Okay, you travelled down to Gloucester. Okay, so I think more than anything you see on socials about this match is how amazing the fans were, and the Scarlets fans at that. So I've seen some numbers thrown about that there was, about 1,000 Scarlets, if not more, there. Tell me, what was your, personal opinion?
Yeah, I don't know
right?
anything about the numbers. I'd be guessing. But what I can tell you is that the bit where the Scarlets were in the shed, you couldn't get into it. Yeah, there wasn't physically enough space. You couldn't get in amongst it. So I had to go further down. I got some clips if anyone hasn't seen it already. If you check the Rap YouTube channel, there's a vlog of it there. Bumped into Benji. Shout out Benji, saw him there. I also shout out Seb, a Scarlets fan who came over and said hello. Nice to meet you, Seb. I hope you're having a great day. And have since had a couple of messages off other people saying like, "Oh, I thought I saw you. I wish I'd come and say hello." Always come and say hello. Always come and say hello.
Yeah.
Even if it turns out not to be me, come and say hello anyway.
Yeah, Hugh's got a very friendly face. If you see me on the off chance, come say hello as well. But I'm not as friendly. I don't have as friendly as a face. Yeah.
And it was great. I was blown over in a very good way, and especially at the end. We'll talk about the match in a minute, but worst scoreline of the season, and the Scarlets fans were just there, just singing "Scarlets Till I Die," singing the whole way through. I've seen messages off Gloucester who said, "You boys can come back. You were great." I've seen one Gloucester fan saying, "The best visiting fans that we've ever had at Kingsholm." So shout out, that's massive credit to the Scarlets as a fan base. And in a very difficult result on a cold ass night in Gloucester, that's made a lot of people very proud to be Scarlets fans, I think. Was that performance. And like I said, I don't know the actual numbers, but when I walked in at the shed end, I was like, oh my God, it's all Scarlets fans. It's all Scarlets fans here. So that was cool. So I've only seen the game in person. I haven't watched it back on telly or anything. So you give me because sometimes it's easier to actually watch it on telly than in the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree on that. And if I'm totally honest with you, I blacked out a lot of this game. I tried watching back. I think I got about 25 minutes in, but I got a very similar feeling to the Cardiff at home game. And I'm probably expecting the stats to really show the same. We were the better team, I would have thought, in terms of numbers. Obviously, definitely in terms of possession,
a lot of our
territory.
stats are better than Gloucester's, yes.
And obviously they scored 5 tries. So well done to them. They got over the line. But I'm just looking at all 5 of those, and the 2 more ones. I'm just thinking, what's going on? We just so soft, and then the other.
I was very surprised by how easily they drove us over at the Maul time. That all season we've been great Maul defense, so that surprised at how easy they got over.
Yeah, it's like their first small try. It was clear obstruction, but I'll be honest, every team does it, so it has to be more than blatant to be called. So I'm not calling for that to be struck off or nothing. I'm not doing that. Their first score, Wade kicks it ahead. It has a bit of a dodgy bounce, so they manage to recollect, and then they just get over from there.
Yeah,
They
their first score, their kind of attack is going a bit nowhere, so they just chip it through. Ioan Lloyd, who was playing fullback at that moment in time, was down crocked. I thought he was going off. He was getting treatment off two physios on the pitch at the time. It bounces off, I think, Blair Murray's back heel, goes into the in goal, and they drop it, dab it down. So it was an unlucky try to concede. And then the final try, hang on, I'll see if I can find the final try. The one that
I
Wade scored.
Yeah, if I wanna, I will talk about the third one and the one in the middle between the mall tries. And obviously this is down to the artificial surface as well. He slid in from what it felt like 300 meters out. I really, this would talk. There's always an element of luck in a game, and luck was more on their side than ours. But at the same time, we had plenty, plenty of opportunities in this game to
Yeah,
to
so
do a job.
if I show the way,
Cole's head, but it came off the shoulder.
right, okay. So
Well,
that's unlucky, right? That unbelievable. So fair play to him. But it is unfortunate as in Gloucester haven't broken down our defense here. They there was very little intent about that apart from when Wade was finishing it. That try and the first try are unlucky. And then the 3 tries in the middle, no complaints. But then
yeah,
you go on, sorry, because you've watched more of it on the screen. I've only watched it from the stands.
yeah. I'm looking at that fight, their final try, and if you want to take a step back, that ball gets out of James' hands, not through a tackle. We're in for a score, and I think at that point we're not winning the game. I don't think we're winning the game from that point, but
No.
I think we do get within the 7, and I think we make it very, very awkward for the
I
last
was
couple of
double annoyed that
seconds.
that got scored because I said in the preview that we hadn't conceded more than 24 points in any game. And if that hadn't been scored, that would have still been true. um,
Yeah,
but things that we said in the preview, I said that Gloucester score 60% of their tries in the first half. They did exactly that. We said we'd go after them at line out time. We did exactly that. And we said that we'd have to score tries in order to beat them because they score tries. And we didn't do that. And they look like a team who are used to scoring lots of tries in a game, and we look like a team who are used to scoring 2 tries in a game.
yeah. So enough on them. Now, if I come on to us, similar problems that we've had all season. You know, our exits are average at best. Within the first 3 minutes, we had 3 opportunities to clear the ball, and we got next to nothing out of them, and it eventually resulted in their first try. How the play progressed. Then we go to the restarts. Like again, I haven't watched back enough for this game to really assess it, but the first 2 restarts went stupidly long. We didn't have a player within 10 meters of the ball being caught, and they just had. I think the first one they tried running out. The second one they had just the simplest of exits, and they booted it 30 meters of the pitch. But if we switch over to our attack, and this is where we see a difference between Ioan Lloyd and Sam Costelow. Sam Costelow doesn't just follow the game plan. He doesn't just follow, this is the move, this is how we do it, this is what has to happen. He will assess things on the fly, and he will give the correct ball. And there was a moment, I'm trying to find where I've written it in by here. I'm trying to find the actual time if anyone wants to have a look back there. It was around the 21-minute mark. We had a line out. I think it was in their 22. The pass goes in behind Lloyd, and he then has two options. He's got Blair Murray on his shoulder, or he's got Nicholas out wide who's being guarded by two men. Now, for me, if he pops that ball short to Murray, the position, the way it looks like on camera, I'll be honest, I think it'll take a hell of a job to stop Murray getting to the line from that point. But he throws the pass to Nicholas, and it's almost intercepted. So you're like, Urgh. There's little things like that we see in the differences in the games, and we see it with other players as well. We saw it with Ioan Nicholas. Just a few minutes later, he literally drifted across from what was it, literally midway point of the field to I think about the 15-meter. He'd managed to create a 2-on-1 with Ellesmere outside him. He had the ability to pass it before he was, I think it was tackled or whatever from behind, but he didn't give the ball. It would have been a walk in for Ellesmere. There's little things like this in our game that they've crept in now, which I'm not liking. But at the same time, we can say, okay, these are our boys that are our starting backline. We say we'd have Sam Costelow over Lloyd, and it depends where Ioan Nicholas is playing. If we're talking 15,
I
we
think
say
we
Rogers.
missed Tom Rogers' dancing feet, didn't we? Because
Yeah,
he's made a lot of tries for us this season by beating three men.
not just that. I mean, I don't think, even though they both had, I mean, Ellesmere had a brilliant game, especially defensively, and I thought Blair Murray had a good game with what he was given. We're not using them enough. We're really
That was
not.
something that Dwayne said at the start of the season. He was asked about Blair Murray, and he said, "Well, we need to pass the ball to him more."
There was, again, one point quite early on, the ball went in behind. I think it might have even been Lloyd that made the pass, or the pass meant to go to Lloyd, and the ball bounced on the floor. So we're going back about 10 meters. Murray picks it up and he dances through about three defenders, and he gets us right back to where we were on the gain line. And it's like not little things like that, but there's those things that make great players, and that's something Blair Murray does. If we go over and talk about Ellesmere, and you cannot talk about the try saving little dink, the little push out of the hand he does on Josh Hathaway, and I think this is a big reason why Ellesmere is in the squad. Not that he hasn't been playing fantastic since, but he put Josh Hathaway in his pocket all game. If you would look at the battles, especially the Welsh shirt battles, and I'm not using this as a Gatland justification for the squad or whatever, but if you had Hathaway against me absolutely smashed that battle. You then had Mac Llewellyn as a 12,
Yeah,
which
so this is I
isn't,
pulled up Ellis Mead's
yeah,
defensive stats. So 8 out of 9 tackles, which on the wing is phenomenal. And by the
yeah,
way, no one attempted more tackles than Ellis Mead, again on the wing, which goes to show Gloucester's game plan to play wide, which we also said in the preview. But 8 out of 9 tackles on the wing, sensational. One dominant tackle, two turnovers, one and zero penalties conceded. But then I'll go to see if we can find the one that you're about to allude to here about um, Llewellyn against here we go.
there we
Llewellyn
go.
against Eddie James.
Like Llewellyn, obviously, I don't know what his best position is. He was playing 13 last autumn. He's played some 13 for Gloucester. He's played wing for Gloucester. He's played 12 for Gloucester. So, I mean, if he develops as a center, a mobile center, a 12, 13, then brilliant for him. But in terms of being just a 12 for this game, and obviously he's got the frame for it, he was up against Eddie James, and quite frankly, it looks like Eddie James embarrassed him, even though he was on the losing team.
So I posted this graphic, and I fully believed when I made this graphic that Max Llewellyn would be in the Wales squad. So I was very surprised. So I thought it was an interesting matchup, and Max Llewellyn wasn't going to play 12 for Wales, but yeah, Eddie James's stats are better across the board, really. Um, and yeah, so that was kind of it. Should I do a bit more stats for
Yeah,
this
we like
one?
stats.
So I agree with you. It was a reminder of the Cardiff game at home that we lost, in that we didn't play the kind of game plan that we want the Scarlets to play, which is if in doubt, kick, and play quickly, keep ball alive. We didn't do that, and that was disappointing. Um, as you can see, a lot of stats were in our favour. Gloucester, 83 carries. Remember that. I'll come back to that in a second. But the thing on this sheet I want to focus on is the rucks. 129 rucks. That's not us. That's not us. That's not how we want to play. And I was stood there in the stands watching us play around the halfway, ruck after ruck, and I'm like, this isn't how we play. This isn't what we do. So that was disappointing. It's 56. Also, for us, that's slow ruck speed as well. And that was just, frustrating. And we had opportunities. I'll come back to that in a second. We had opportunities in the 22, and I've got a point on that in a second. But, again, going back to what you were saying about were we the better team, and I'm fully aware of becoming memed of every time we lose a game, I say, well, we were the better team because I've said that at 2 games this season already. But 100% scrum success again. We lost one line out. We took four of their line outs. I don't know if this came across on TV, Mart, but we stole their first two line outs.
Yeah,
Fafita has caught 8 line out balls in this game. Four of them were Gloucester throws.
yeah.
There was genuinely one of them where I was like, was that our throw? I thought it was Gloucester throwing it in.
The second one, I think I was on the 5 meter line because he just tapped it back straight into Marlis's hand and he just swiftly moves it on. It looked like one of our own plays. It was quite funny.
Yeah. So set piece has gone well again. But it's just the playing with the ball too much, and there's just not us. That's just not how we play. And look, so remember this, okay? So Gloucester lost 21 turnovers, and we won 11 turnovers off them, right? So the kicking game. Now, I understand when you're losing in a game, to see your team just engage in kick tennis is frustrating from a supporter's point of view, but it was working in the first half. We engaged them in kick tennis. They don't want to play kick tennis. They want to run from their 22. And when that kick tennis was going, the fans in the stadium were getting restless, and you could see the Gloucester players on the pitch were getting bored. And they were getting bored, and they were starting to run the ball back, and they were making mistakes. Gloucester carried the ball 83 times in this game. They conceded a turnover 21 times. We won 5 breakdown penalties off them, and we got 5 tackle turnovers as well. That's on top of pinching 4 of their lineouts. So it was working. We were kicking them the ball, they were running it back, and we were taking it off them. And the problem was then that we didn't execute the platforms we then had with the territory. We had scrums in their 22, we had lineouts in their 22, and we didn't execute. I have to say that the thing that I was most disappointed about was the lack of starter plays, the lack of first phase moves. Okay, the Scarlets have scored nearly half of their tries this season from first phase moves. We didn't see any. The only first phase move that we had apparently was get the ball to Eddie James and he can crash it up, crash ball 12. Like that, and that was disappointing. Like when we saw the midfield partnership of Eddie and Max, I thought we're going to see soft hands of death here. We're going to see tries like Max Page scored against Benetton and against Zebra. It didn't. Eddie took contact every single time, and I don't know whether it's because we prepped for Anscombe at 10 and Max Llewellyn on the wing, or Carreras at 15, and because Gloucester reshuffled their whole backline, all our starter players went out the window because that wasn't the team we prepared for. But that was disappointing to not be able to execute any of those platforms. Um, we should be doing better in those
Yeah,
situations.
I mean, we know how good of a player Max Page is attacking. We've all got our issues with certain players. And with mine with him is defensively, but you have Max Page in that squad. You have him for attack. You have him to basically be looking for soft offloads, to do, putting him into space and to just use his pace and power and just burn people. And I I honestly can only remember seeing him with the ball in his hands once in that game, which
Tell you know.
is just terrible. Like obviously it might have been a few more. He might have trucked up a couple of times, but it was early in the first half where I think the ball went wide and he cuts back in. That's the only memory I've got of Max Page holding the ball.
Yeah, he got 9 carries apparently for 21 meters, which is nothing for him.
No, they must
So
have been
yeah,
literally 1 meter at a time, if that, from that first
so
one.
I don't want to go on about this game forever, but that was a disappointing thing for me. Last point is the scrum half debate. So
Okay,
what was your take on? Firstly, I'll bring up his stats. Cowder had a phenomenal impact off the bench. So what was your kind of take on the scrum halves in this game?
now we can go back a few weeks ago to when Archie first came back into the team, and we said he needs to be starting. I said I pegged the Dragons game as the one. Okay, that's the one I'd want Archie starting. That's the one. Okay, he didn't start that, and because he starts that. I don't think he should have started this one. I know he's played games last season, but he's a young kid. Let's not forget now that we went into this game with a backline with an average age of 22, which is just
Yeah,
stupid, absolutely
that's not
stupid.
like youngest player is 22. That's half of the players are
Average,
younger than 22.
exactly. So for me, and I think it's actually on this post that you put. You know, Archie needs minutes. He needs to start. There's no issues with him starting. I want him to start more, but for his sake, for confidence sake, it should have been at home that he gets his first start, and if possible, with a more experienced backline. If you could have put
Johnny, at least.
Johnny, Joe in your centres and Tom Rogers at 15, that I think those are the three I actually named. If you can have that backline for Archie starting his first game at home, I think he has a much better chance to succeed. In reality, he ended up in a backline with no leaders, and
I think
and,
Eddie,
and
I watched Eddie for a bit. I think Eddie was doing stuff. There was times like we were setting up under scrums and Eddie was the one telling people where to stand.
yeah, I've no doubt that Eddie took up that role and he is developing, but he's not a leader as it stands. Sam Costelow was the only real leader in that backline named. And look, in my opinion, when it comes to
Yeah, and Dwayne alluded to that as
organization,
well in the post-match interview.
I should have listened to that. I could probably save myself a bit of chatting by you, couldn't I? But I think Archie ended up in an impossible position when Sammy went off. He had no one to fall back on, no one that knew to just go, give him a tap on the shoulder, go, yeah, you're all good, you're all fine. And obviously, Josh McLeod would do that in other circumstances, but you know your forwards and your back to defense, you've your captain, whatever is your captain, but you always have your pack leader and your back leader. It's always been the same. And when you haven't got a back leader on the pitch, it just makes everything a lot harder for younger
Mm.
players. And obviously, I was saying this at the time. I said it when Ioan Lloyd went down first before Sam even done his collarbone, and you actually thought Ioan Lloyd was going off. I was like, Roberts, please bring Roberts on, please bring Roberts on. And then Ioan Lloyd stayed on, and then when we went to Costello, like, okay, please bring Roberts on. That's the only natural thing for me. It was Roberts to 13, Page on the wing, and me to fullback. That was, to me, that was the obvious thing to do. But he brought Nicholas on. So again, bench issues, slight bit of selection issues. We talk
Two
about
outside
Peter
backs on the
Plumtree.
bench. No, not for me,
I
Dwayne.
I I don't have.
Joe went to the
eh,
wing, by the way,
eh,
when he came on.
yeah, that was weird. Usually, because obviously I've just named two outside backs in my Wales 23.
I know. That's why I
Um,
chastised you so.
I'm not totally against it if you've got the coverage there, but when you know that if you lose Costello, your only option is Lloyd, and he cannot play the same game plan because obviously the game plan went out the window. Losing Sammy lost us this game. I got no doubt about that. Sammy stays fit. I think we win this game because of how dominant we were outside of that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Just on the scrum half thing, I'm not against Gareth Davis staying on. Look, it's the Sam Costello injury changes everything. But as a point of principle, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, shows Gareth Davis should have started." Now, I can't make a hypocrite of myself because last week I showed a graphic showing that we need to get more minutes into other scrum halves.
yeah,
So I can't just go back on that after one thing. And my other point would be, if Gareth Davis is going to be that good off the bench, then I'm fine with him staying on the bench because, between now and 5 years' time, Archie Hughes is going to play a lot more minutes for the Scarlets than Gareth Davis is. So might as well start now. I said those words on the last podcast. It's better to go too early than too late. But I also have to acknowledge that Gareth Davis showed the value that he has in the Scarlets jersey when he came on, made a huge impact, and yeah, fair play to him.
Okay, so I believe we've just passed the hour mark. So if anyone is still here listening, thank you so much. Obviously, you either love what we're doing or hate what we're doing, and either way, like, share, subscribe. Do you want? If you are a Scarlets fan, then you obviously know about the Scarlet supporters group, Crease 16. Always looking for new members, free membership, sign up. Monthly
Just to be
newsletter.
clear, this podcast isn't affiliated with Crease, apart from Mart, who's in Crease. But this podcast is not sponsored by Crease.
No, nothing to do with Crease at all, barring myself being a part of it, and I don't bring that over as often as I probably should. If you can sign up at crease16.cymru. It's all free. Meet the players, meet the management, all different evenings throughout the season. So it's well worth the £0 and 0 pence you play. So
Well,
uh,
it's the Thunder now, isn't it?
it's the Thunder now, and this is going to be really quick because I do not want to talk about this game. This was
Oh,
uh,
Jesus,
wow.
this was a tough watch. This is the
Can
thing I think, Matt, about women's rugby becoming more professional is now we are harsher to them when they do badly, and they did badly in this game.
Oh, they're more than done bad. I mean, in between 22s, fine. We were okay. We made a few line breaks. We looked threatening. It was just in both 22s, it just, I don't know what happened. It just totally capitulated. And we're looking now at the Irish sides. We're looking at, obviously we knew Edinburgh were good. We had a good performance
Do
against
you want to tell
Edinburgh
people what the
last time.
score was?
No, I don't. I really don't, because I was embarrassed at the scoreline of Gloucester. This is even
Yeah,
worse.
this is a different kettle of fish, people.
Yeah, this is nilled for starters. And okay, I've said one half of it. You say the other. I can't do it.
I can't even remember. 48, is it at the end?
Yeah, 48 points to nil
At
at
home.
home. At home. I mean, oh my god! Like me and you spoke before this game, and I was like, struggling to see where our wins are going to come from. And I was like, oh, we'll just end up having 2 wins against Glasgow, and hopefully, we can do Edinburgh over on our own patch. Like, wow, that's changed massively. Glasgow incredibly unlucky not to beat Gwalia Lightning at Ystrad Mynach. I had a little rant about my opinion on advantage and try scoring opportunities, in the group there. So I won't carry that over by you. But I am really worried now as a Britain fan. I don't know where a win is going to come from. I don't know where
I
a
think
full performance is going to come from.
there were some basic skills by players that were very poor in this game. Very poor. And like if some of these players are aspiring to play for Wales one day, or even like get a PWR contract or something somewhere, there was some very disappointing uh, moments in this game for me. And there looked like a clear differential between us and Wolfhounds. Oh, they're the league champions. They're a great team. Fair play to them, but just like everything about them. And
Yeah,
I think the thing that's going consistently well for the Thunder is the centres, because guess what? We've got international centres. Um, and the scrum's fine.
yeah.
And
I
Hing on the
mean,
wing and Hannah Marshall is good.
yeah. We do have some really good players in there, and one thing we do have a lot of is a lot of recent under 20s and even some current under 20s in this squad. So, maybe a bit of naivety, a bit of immaturity,
Hmm.
that could be an issue in there. But if we're going to talk about the Celtic Challenge as in general terms, Wolfhounds, Clovers, the two Irish teams, Edinburgh and Glasgow, the two Scottish teams, they are all improving. they are all taking a step up. Whereas it seems that us, and I'm going to include Gwalia in this as well, I'd say we're probably going a little bit backwards. I wouldn't even say we're at a standstill. You know, this,
I think we're made to look to go backwards because everyone else has gone forwards. And this comes back to, and I've had a women's rugby pod. You said it, Mark. You said it in your message to me. It's like, oh, it looks like everybody else went away after the last Celtic Challenge and kept working, and we called it a day, and then have come back a week before the start of this season and gone, cool, back to this again. Like,
yeah,
literally, what Ireland are doing in women's rugby is the bare minimum, and it's had a huge impact on their success. They've gone from WXV3 to second in WXV1 in 1 year. And look, it's the WRU would rather pay players to play in England than they would spend money on their own pathways. We need
it's
to get the Celtic Challenge is only 10 games. These players should be getting games outside of the Celtic Challenge. I don't care who against. Just
yeah.
we need to be take it seriously. Someone take it seriously.
I mean, I think what makes it worse for us is the fact that the head of the women's pathway is the Britain head coach. Now, I know you brought this up previously. How does someone who's head of the pathway split his time between
It's
that,
also under 20s coach.
the under 20s position, and then coaching Britain? How do you split one person into that many pies? And it seems that that is, a massive issue at the minute. Um, I hate saying I tried to avoid saying but I've said so many times now. It's disheartening, and I think the pathway up to 18 is fine. We've got some amazing hubs. You know, just they're just not translating that after 18. I mean, if we talk about some of these, you know, we've got 9 full-on girls hubs. That's without the clubs that run women's sides. Obviously, a lot of clubs run pure women's sides as well. So we've got the likes of Valley Vixens, South Pemshire, Strady, Sosbans, Wibborough, Cleddau, Wild. There's so many talented young girls, and some of them get poached by Gwalia. Some of our former Scarlet season ticket holders get poached by Gwalia. We have to mention that. But the opportunity for girls to play up to 18 is there. Now, it's not to the standard that it will be for male players, and it's never going to. We've got something like 300 odd clubs. That's not something that's ever going to be able to compete with. But as a basic pathway to get them to 18 right now, it's brilliant. It's working up to under 18s. I see good things in the Wales under 18s. When they go in the Six Nations festivals, etc. But it's just after that, I know we've developed these performance centers. I think it's 3 of them. It is that 18 to 23 gap, and then getting, like you said, getting the girls playing, getting the females playing, however you want to say it. I was the girls, in it. That's how you explained it to me before. That our players, we can call them the girls. But again, yeah, I don't know what's wrong at the minute. I don't know what's missing, and we've done the numbers ourselves. Women are not paid anywhere near as much as the men. And I know you got to find this money from somewhere, but if you could just simply find £2 million, and I know that sounds stupid because it's £2 million, that's like 2% of the WIU's revenue. You could get 2 of the most well-funded club sides in the female professional rugby world. It's simple. We need to invest money, and we need to invest them
Coaching.
at. We need to
He's
invest
actually
them.
back. He's actually back taking line out drills. Like I don't know if he is, but like yeah. So I'm sorry for being so negative, but we've just been beat 48-0 at home. If I can't be negative now, when can I be negative?
Exactly.
Um
Okay.
yeah.
So it doesn't get any better, because next week we get to go to Wolfhounds. So the only game in the Celtic Challenge this coming weekend, so the 18th of January, I believe it's 1:30 kickoff. Someone might want to double check that just in case I'm
It'll either
wrong.
be on iPlayer or Rugby Pass TV.
It's always on Rugby Pass. I tend to find. So yeah, it's 1:30 kickoff on Saturday 18th. Only game in this round or on this weekend. The other two are being played the following week, so a bye week for us next week. Might come at a nice time. So yeah, I don't know what needs to change, but something has to if we're going to come close to making this aggregate scoreline over the two games respectable. So, are we done with Brython?
We're done with Brython. You now need to do the world's quickest community rundown.
The world's quickest. It's not okay. We're gonna pause before the community because we've got a couple of things to talk about first. This past Friday at Cardiff Park, there was a Wales under-20s against a Welsh Academies game. We had a few boys involved for under-20s. We had Jack Pritchard, Dylan Alford, Yori Badam, remember the name. And for the Welsh Academies, we had Captain Rodri Lewis, Gabriel McDonald, and Jack Davis. Under-20s won the game 42-21, and the Welsh Academy players are older, but they only had 3 days training. 3 days training before this game. So I don't know, and we know the under-20s have been training since early December because they've had a couple of games against Scotland. So a couple of things of note in this match for Welsh Academies. Gabriel McDonald made a beautiful intercept, lovely run, and he offloaded for a try assist. I think Josh Carrington, I think the guy who scored was. And then on the opposite side, Yori Badam had what many have said is the try of the night. You don't have the full highlight of it on socials. You only get part of it. He gets the ball in his own 22, and he basically just says, you know what, this is my field. I'm just going to run to the other end and score. And then a couple of minutes later, he basically does the exact same thing, but this time he offloads and Harry Ford as a score. So a few really encouraging performances in there. They go again this coming week. So under-20s v Welsh Academies Part 2. That will be Friday night, Llandovery, Churchbank playing fields, 7:30 kickoff. I believe it's £5 entry, free to under-16s. And now, the Junior Academy. So the RAG Under-18 Championship is back. Our first game is on Sunday. It is at Llandovery, Churchbank playing fields, 3:00 kickoff on the Sunday. Scarlets have made a massive attempt to try and move around the region. If you're in the area, if you can get to Llandovery on Sunday for 3:00, it would be massively appreciated if you could turn out. I believe it's free for season ticket holders. If not, it's normally £3 is an academy game. And that game is Scarlets against Cardiff. So that will be a fun
That was a tri-fest last season, wasn't it? It was like 34-35.
I think it was 44-40 actually. I'll say I'll double check. I'm not going to double check. I gotta get onto the academy stuff. So sharing my screen imminently. Clicking the buttons. Okay, so here we go. So there was no games in the SRC this past weekend, mostly due to this under-20s Welsh Academies game. There is only one game this coming weekend on the 18th of January. So it's Llandovery at home to Pontypool. So basically, so that's 3 days in a row where there was going to be a top quality match at Llandovery. So be a good weekend to make. So into the Premiership.
I have a suggestion for Llandovery.
Go on.
Put the camera in front of the lampposts.
Ooh, that's an idea, isn't it?
So that when there's a line break or something, you're not filming a lamppost. It's just a suggestion.
Okay. Into the Premiership, Llangennis game away to Newbridge was postponed. Newcastle Emlyn went down 25-28 at home to Bonamine. Narberth had the bye. This week, Merthyr are at home to Newcastle Emlyn. Narberth at home to Bargoed. Llangennis travelling to Pontypridd. Championship West results: Crymych 31-19 at home to Ystalyfera. Llanelli Wanderers 41-19 winners at home to Tondi. Ammanford 56-22 winners away to Trebanos. Fixtures for this week: this is the big one. See where Ammanford really are. Ammanford at home to Tartar Steel. Crymych travel to Gleneath. Llanelli Wanderers travel to Kenfigel. Now in the lower divisions, this coming week is Cup week, so slightly varied fixtures. So Division 1 West results: Aberystwyth 34-20 winners over Tenby. Tenby's first league loss this season. Wellinvoll 23 winners over Hendy at home. Kidwelly going 31-36 down at home to One Island. Buddy Port winning 44-17 away to Pencloud. St. Clears winning 34-14 at home to Ponta Delight. Division 1 West games this weekend. Buddy Port against Tenby. St. Clears travel to Pencloud. Vellinville travel to Ponta Delight. And Aberystwyth travel to One Island. 2 West Central. Bryn winning 31-12 away to Resolvan. Bryn will play Meister Celtic at home this week. Division 2 West, Fishguard 51-13 winners at home to Lacha. Get in
Oh
there.
dear.
Lampeter 38-7 winners away to Milford. Nantgaredig going down 30 points to 31 at home to Larne. Whitland against Carmarthen Athletic was postponed. Betos with a bye. Fixtures for this week. Betos at home to Milford. Lacha travel to Carmarthen Athletic. Lampeter hosting Nantgaredig. Larne hosting Fishguard. Whitland with a bye. Into 3 West, we got Aberystwyth on 24-5 winners at home to Llandilo. Am United 25-20 winners at home to Llangadog. Haverfordwest 33-0 winners again at home to Cefneithen. Pontevedra against Tigcroes was postponed, and Tumble rounded off with all home wins in this league, 31-24 at home to Cardigan. Games for this week, we got Aberystwyth at home to Haverfordwest. Tumble travel to Am United, and Cefneithen host Pontevedra. Ooh, tasty. 4 West Day, Newcastle Emlyn Dreigiau, 13-8 winners at home to Crymych Tairw. Narberth Athletic going down 12-5 away to Pembroke. Llanybudder winning 13-10 away to Pembroke Dock Harlequins. And St. David's losing 31-0 at home to Neyland Langham with a bye this week. Games this coming weekend, Newcastle Emlyn Dreigiau at home to Pembroke Dock Quins. Langham at home to Crymych Tairw, and St. David's travelling to Llanybudder. 4 Westby, New Dock Stars back in action, 53-19 points.
We battered him at home as well. It's the double we've done over Binion now, and it's been absolute hosings.
There we
But
go.
we play every week.
Got battered. Fall Bay 69-0 winners at home to Tregarra, and Llandybie 38-3 winners at home to Furness, and Panderfynon against Pontiac's game was postponed. Games for this week: Furness against Binia, New Dock Stars against Trimsara, and that's very, very local for this league. Panderfynon against Llandybie. Quite possibly. Pennybank at home to Fall Bay, Pontiac at home to Tregaron. 1 game in the Division 4 Cup, a replay from many moons ago. Trimsaran going down 28-21 at away to Ferndale, I should say. So Cup games this week: Division 1 Cup, Hendy at home to Redfelin. Division 3 Cup, Cardigan at home to Club Rugby Cymru Caerdydd. Tigcroes travel to Fleur de Lis, and Llangadog travel to Rhymney. In Division 4 Cup, Neyland travel to Llaneleth. Down in the youth leagues, Carmarthenshire Plate action at the preliminary round. So Lampeter Youth against Vellinville Youth, and Furness Youth travel to Tumble Youth. And that is the end of the community round.
The world's quickest community roundup. Unfortunately, Mart, I've got something to tell you.
Oh, no. Don't tell me.
We've had a letter.
From Zach from Astrid Ginlice.
No. It's from Jack from Lucker.
Close enough.
He says this. Dear Sosbans and so-called Sidesteps, you know what I hate most about the Scarlets? Is that your squad is entirely made up of overpaid, non-Welsh qualified talent, and that you have too many players in the Welsh squad. So, what do you say to that, Mark? Is that true? It is annoying, isn't it, how we simultaneously are completely held up by non-Welsh qualified players and also have too many players in the Wales squad?
I mean, I don't think we have too many players in the Wales squad. I think the way the season structured makes it, easier to not have many players in the national squad. I'll be honest. I think we could probably lose a couple of these NWQ players and still be strong. So, Jack, you know nothing. Go back to Mumbles or wherever you are.
Do you find it interesting that all of the comments that have been made by people this season about the Scarlets locks being all non-Welsh qualified, and then if you look at the Wales squad, there's only one lock in there that actually plays in Wales? It's just interesting to me.
I'm going to include Jack Price in this just because he has started games. He has played quite a few games. And so he is Welsh. Again, with the Ams, what am I doing? So I think there was a little bit of a contract snagaloo or whatever you want to call it last season. I don't think we knew we were going to hold on to Craig So we had Douglas and Lousy set up. We were happy having like Jack Price and Morgan Jones as our 3 and 4. And then when it was like Craig, oh, I'll stay for another year or whatever it is, you're like, oh, okay, we're not going to say no to this. It's within our budget. So yeah, it does. It does make it look a bit lopsided when it's just the way the cards have fallen. At least that's what I believe. Max Douglas has been an incredible, absolutely incredible signing, and we know how Sam Lousy has done over the years. So yeah, I mean, I am resigned to losing Craig at the end of the season to, I believe it's Glasgow,
Yeah.
but it opens up a spot for an NWQ in the backs, which I think we need in a certain position. But we will come on to a recruitment talk in
Another day.
another day because we're already running incredibly late.
Yeah. So, Von preview then. So, would you like a game of Guess the French Statistic?
Guess the French statistic. I like this one.
Right. You tell me what French statistic that you want to learn more about, and then I'll click tout voir.
Okay, so I get to pick between these three, is it?
Well, yeah, so the Von is somewhere in here. So, spoiler alert, Von aren't going to be in the top three of many stats. For audio
Okay,
listeners, I'm looking at the top 14 official stats website, which is very good.
okay, but it's not translated. So I'm gonna
No, that
go.
would take the fun out of it.
I'm gonna go for the middle one because I enjoy scratching balloons.
No, the scratching blues is further down. But you've picked milieu defense, which I think I know what that's going to be. So this is points conceded in the top 14 so far. So let's have a bit of a scroll down. And we see that Von, the most points conceded in the top 14
Woohoo!
so far this season. It's a good start. Good start. Well done, everybody. I don't know how you win this game, but what else would you like to see? Milieu terme de possession, milieu occupation de
Oh
terrain.
yeah, occupation. I like occupation.
Well, I don't need to click too far on this one. Von are in the top three.
Oh, so Von like to play with the ball.
Mm.
There we go. Oh, and
Territory. Occupation du terrain is territory.
yeah, I think people could have figured that out. Um, what is this? Number of cartons, Juan. So is that cards? Is that yellow
It is
cards?
cards, yes.
So 10 yellow cards,
That's
and
that's
what
nothing in France, honestly.
have they,
That's
have they played 14 games? Did I see in
yeah,
the last one? So almost a card. Well, yeah, if they literally only two teams have less cards than them, so yeah, almost a card a game. So
yeah.
yeah,
Toulouse only having 6 cards in 14 games is a nonsense. They've got the special invisibility cloak when it comes to referees in France.
okay.
Um,
I know what the first one is. So let's have a look at tries. Go on.
Tout voir. Von have scored the 9th most tries, so they're actually not that untry
Oh,
scoring-y.
so uh, well, being
Yeah,
bottom doesn't really suit with us, that does it?
yeah. What about
Okay,
penalties obtenus? Obtenwes?
penalties
Offloads,
one.
don't know what that is. Drops, meters
Drop.
parcours.
I mean, drop goals, meters gained. I don't know what French is.
Yeah, it took me ages to figure out what franchisement was, and it's line breaks.
Line breaks. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Let's go have a look. Let's have a look where they are.
Tout voir. Uh,
Franchisements. Low
11th,
11. So
47.
51 over 14. So that's
Oh,
that's
51,
what
sorry.
just over one a game. Just over one a game. So not three a game.
No,
Sorry,
no.
I'm going the wrong way. My brain's not working now. We've been on
Three,
here
three
too
and a
long.
half per game. 3.5 per game. Let's call it that. Placage casses. Millier talks de transfo. Bon, top of that.
Um, what is that?
I want to
Tax
say
the
that this is
transfer.
conversions, but I don't know for sure.
It just says matches. So
No, that says matches play, but toward de transformation. I want to say that's conversions.
well, everyone's at seven. The
I'll
lowest is
check.
70%.
I'll check with my French contact after
Oh,
this.
balloons.
Yes, ballon gratis.
Let's scratch some balloons. Come on.
Tout voir.
Okay, this is this the last one? They
they're
don't scratch
bottom.
many balloons. Yes,
No,
turnovers. Come on.
20 seconds. Do you want to see any
Uh,
others? That's the most exciting one, I'll be
um,
honest.
yeah, yeah, it's
Okay,
fine.
so I'll give you my Von preview then. So I have a book where I
A
write
book.
notes in, and when I do a preview of teams, I do columns are good, what they're good at, and what they're bad at. And for Von, there's not much in the good column, and there's a lot in the bad column.
Okay, I
So
can. I think I can already put one more in the good column.
what's that?
Callum Mahoney.
Ah, we'll come to that. So Von, look, no secrets. Von are 14th in the top 14. They haven't won a single game in the Challenge Cup so far, including a loss to Black Lion. Wouldn't know what that's like. Um, 3 wins from 14 games, or 3 wins, I guess, from 17 games in all competitions so far this season. They've won 1 game away, which was at La Rochelle, of all places. Um, so they've got a minus 123 points difference in the league, which isn't too bad. They do average scoring 24 points a game, but they average conceding 38, which is a lot.
Oh,
What are they good at then? So 9% of their carries commit 3 or more tacklers, which is a lot. Their scrum is good. So they got 31% of their scrums on their own put in are won via penalty. They only lose 6% of their scrums via penalty, which isn't very many. They win 15% of opposition scrums. So 1 in 6
ooh,
scrums against them, they win, which is interesting.
solid scrum.
Um, but they're a very like kind of type 5 sort of team. So they attack the blind side quite a lot. Um, I think that 20% of their movement is tight, which is basically just pick and goes. That's the most of anyone in Europe. They don't move mid very far, very much. Sorry, they move mid quite a lot, which is kind of like crash ball 12 indicative. And short passes. Most of their passes are short. So if I talk about what's not great about them, 24% dominant carries, 18% tackle evasion, neither very good. Offload success, 71%, not very good. Tackle success, 84%, quite low relative. 7 dominant tackles per 80, which is the third worst in Europe. By Europe, I mean European Club Rugby. I don't mean the Champions Cup or Challenge Cup. 85% of their 22 exits are successful, which is even worse than us. Can you believe it? 81% line out success, 83% scrum completion. A lot of their scrums go down. They don't play wide hardly ever. They don't play wider than the first receiver hardly ever. They don't pass the ball that much. 22 entries against, they have quite a lot of those per game, and 43% of their 22 entries against result in conceding a try. 25%, only 25% of their tries come off first phase. Only 2.5% of their tries, which I think is one, come off kick returns. Um,
Okay.
and they don't like scoring off set pieces either. Only 25% of their tries come off first phase. So I think they're a team that kind of play to our strengths. I'll be a little bit honest. Look, they're going to rotate. They don't care about the Challenge Cup. They're the worst team in France. They've already lost away to Black Lion. We've This is a non-negotiable win for the Scarlets.
Yeah. Um, there is a incredibly unlikely scenario where we do finish top of the group, but it would require, you know, Edinburgh, uh, Bayonne, and Gloucester to pick up 0 bonus points. Bayonne and Gloucester to draw. Us to beat Vaughan with a bonus point, and I think it's like a 40. I think it was like a 46, 47 point swing between us and Edinburgh. So it's you know stupid. So it's unlikely to happen. But a Bayonne Gloucester draw, I don't think that's totally out of the equation.
That's in
And
Bayonne, isn't it?
yes, I believe I'm going to double
I think
check for you
Bayonne will win
now.
that.
Yeah,
Um,
they probably will win that, but I'm hoping by her. So they draw by there. All we need to, we win with a bonus point, and we then win by 13 points,
hmm.
which I think is well within our remit. That finish us second in the table because it's done on matches won and then points difference. So there's still a lot of optimism to be had about
Hmm.
about Europe. I don't like the current setup, but we're not here to discuss that. So
So star players for them. Look, the chances are their star players aren't going to make the trip, but star players for them. Mako Vunipola, you may have heard of him. He's
Who?
obviously their loose head. He's been integral in their scrum success. And he's got 6 tackle turnovers as well, which is very good. Callum Afoni. So Callum Afoni, we all know him. We all know the qualities that he brings. He's Vaughan's top carrier and top tackler this season. So we'd love him to come back and say hello to him when we're at
Yeah,
the park.
I really, really hope that regardless of everything he said at the start of the season, once the draw was made, look, I'm going to the park. I don't care if I'm injured. I'm going to that game because, quite frankly, he deserves it. He deserves to come back. He deserves to see the people applaud him.
Hmm.
Give him what he deserves, really. Because, quite frankly, he could still be in our starting 15. If
Yeah.
I'm totally honest with you.
Yeah. And then 2 other star players for them. Celeste Rayasi has 8 try involvements, 76% gain line, and 41% tackle evasion. Very good. And then a guy called Michael Ruru. Um, he's got 8 try involvements as well.
Oh,
He's also got 6 jackal turnovers and 7 dominant hits. But yeah, I think
okay.
the interesting stat about them is that they like to play with more than 50% possession and more than 50% territory, which suits us just fine. So I think so long as the scrum holds up against them, which we have statistically the best scrum in rugby, so hopefully it will. I think there's not much else about them that worries me based on the stats, other than my usual underlying level of worry being a Scarlets fan.
Yeah, it's usual. We got to get a selection right, and we need to use the bench, and show we can use the bench more than anything. This is quite likely the last time we've got those 7 Wales squad picks with us. So, quite frankly, we use them. I'm hoping to dear God that both Tom Rogers and Johnny Williams are both fit for this game because, quite frankly, we need them. And it's going to be interesting life without Costello. I think this game is it's going to tell us the selection is going to tell us what we're going to be doing going forward,
If
and
Charlie Thickham
then
doesn't get minutes in this game, he's not getting minutes against anybody because
no,
we've already played Black Lion, we've already played the Dragons, we've already played Zebra.
unless Peel does what he done last season, and when we go to obviously we went to
Munster.
Leinster last
Yeah,
year,
so it'll
so
be
I would
Munster
imagine
this year.
he does it in that game. I for me, Titcom's got to start. It's as simple as I'd bring Joe Roberts straight into 13, Tom Rogers 15 if he's available. I don't know. I do think I play Johnny over Eddie just because I do want Titcomb there, so I'd want Cowdo one side of him and Johnny the other, and then obviously if Johnny's not there, it'd be Joe. So he's got some security in the people around him. He's got some experience. He's got some old heads. As far as old heads go with the Scarlets, quite now.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think the only change we make to the pack is the Fifita Plumtree conundrum. Um, yeah, I think that's it. Obviously, I'm hoping some players are fit and return. I don't know why Archer Holtz wasn't involved in this game. We got to see Gabe Hawley
Oh,
for the
shout
first
out Gabe
time.
Hawley. Apologies, Gabe. The first game, I noticed the scrum got better when he came on. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
Don't know
he's
your thoughts as the scrum person.
again. I blacked out a lot of that game. I honest to God, I can honestly say from about 27 minutes to the full time whistle, apart from the actual tries scored, I can't remember anything about that game. And I'm quite glad my brain has been able to do that, if I'm totally honest with you. But yeah, a couple of tweaks. You know, I would imagine Archer Holt's come back into it because obviously he wasn't listed on the injured. Um, Ryan Elias is obviously not involved in Wales, so that kind of tells us that he's not going to be around for a while. So I wouldn't mind seeing Isaac Young come on the bench. Have a shout. You know, yeah. I don't know. What about you? Any changes you would want to make to this?
Win the game and I'll be satisfied.
Win the game and I'll be satisfied. Okay, so scoreline. Let's be very quick because again we've overrun. How have we gone so long?
I know. Scarlets by 12.
Scarlets by 12. Scarlets by 15. There we go. That brings us to the end. Thank you very much for listening. If you've made it this far, just wow, just total commitment from you. And if you actually support the Scarlets and you've made it this far, then even doubly better for you. So thank you very much. We'll do it all again next week and hopefully celebrating a win. Thank you for joining me, Huw, and we'll do it all again. Trabat.
Bye.